Today I'm going to show you how to do these beautiful radial stained glass designs. You are going to need a circular design. It should have radial symmetry. So if you know how to make one of these, or if you already have one, then you're ready to get started. If you're not sure how to create one of these designs, then just refer to my radial symmetry tutorial, and that will show you how to get your design. But if you have your design ready, then you're ready to go ahead and start one of these lovely works of art. So let's get started.
Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to do a faux rose window stained glass project. So you need a design that has radial symmetry on a circle preferably. If you don't know how to make one of these, I have a video that shows how to create a design with radial symmetry on a circle. So refer to that first, create your design, then you're ready to do this project. But most of you have already done that. So all you're gonna really need are your design that you've created, tape, some kind of piece of clear something. This is like some kind of clear like vinyl that I had from something. I'm not really sure where I got it from, but you could easily do this with a piece of wax paper. I've done that in the past with my students. You could take a large Ziploc bag and cut it in half, basically, so use one side of it. Any kind of like clear film or anything like that. So this is what we're using. And so what you're gonna do is you're gonna lay your clear piece down, lay your design face down on top of it, and you're gonna tape your design on. You're gonna want to be able to take your design off later, so you don't wanna use super sticky tape. If you need to stick it to your clothing a couple times to make it less sticky, that would be good, because you don't want it to tear whatever clear piece you're using to hold down your design. So get your design taped down nice and flat. Then go ahead and flip it over, so you should be able to see your design through your clear piece of whatever you're using. Oh, the other thing you're gonna need is some black glue. I know that some brands sell glue that has dye in it that's already dyed black. I'm cheap and I made my own just using some Elmer's glue. This says clear, but I'm just reusing the bottle. It was just regular white Elmer's glue, I think the washable kind, mixed with black acrylic paint. At first I tried mixing it with India ink, but I found that the India ink made the Elmer's glue like coagulate, like turn like hard. So don't do that. But black, just regular black paint, permanent's better, mixed with glue, works great. Make sure it's in a bottle that squirts well. I tell my students to have a paper towel next to them and to even open up their glue bottle and practice drawing with it a couple times, because what you're essentially going to be doing is you're going to be drawing this design with glue. That's what gives your stained glass a 3D look, like it has the metal wires that run between the glass pieces, rather than just, you know, doing this all with flat black Sharpie or something like that. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna be tracing your lines. When you do this, you don't want your bottle sitting flat, because it creates a flat line. Oops. It creates like a flat line. You want it to be slightly above what you're tracing, so you're kind of holding it up above it just a little bit. I suggest either starting on the opposite side of the hand you write with, so if you're right-handed, start on your left side, if you're left-handed, start on your right side, or start in the middle and work out. What you don't want to do is you don't want to do the right side and then drag your hand through it to do the left, basically. So I'm just going to start in the middle, and you're going to hold up your glue bottle, and you're going to trace your lines. Now, your lines are going to get much thicker than they are when they're just a pencil, which is why having a good design is really, really, really important. Because if you have a design that's really messy, or especially a design that's too complicated, a design that has lots of little teeny tiny pieces to trace, all your lines are going to kind of blur together as they grow. So simple is much better than complicated for this design. If you were to just take your design and trace it on here with black Sharpie and then coloring it all in, I guess you could do a much more complicated design and it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But if you're doing this step where you're tracing with your black glue and your lines are widening, which is what really makes it look like real stained glass, is having those black lines in there, then I strongly suggest that you keep your design simple. I wouldn't put any two shapes closer together than a finger width apart, is what I tell my students. Or another way of saying it is don't make any designs thinner, smaller than a dime. So just kind of work your way around. There's no real rhyme or reason to it other than, you know, having the side to rest your hand on. I find that it's much easier to be able to rest my arm as I do this and just hold up the glue bottle than having to like hold it like this. That's much harder. If you find that you start to squeeze and it doesn't immediately flow out the way it has been, that means you probably have a clog in there, especially if you're using older glue like I have. Another good reason to keep your paper towel nearby, because then you can go over here and squeeze as hard as possible until it starts to flow a little bit more freely, and then you can assume that you have popped that clog out of there. So once you're done, obviously close your glue bottle so that you can save it for next time. And now that you're done tracing your design, you're gonna have to let it dry. Overnight is usually best. Unless your glue is really, really, really thick, overnight or about 12 hours is plenty of time for it to dry. Your lines will shrink just a little tiny bit as the water evaporates out, but they'll pretty much mostly stay about this size. And so by tomorrow morning, you should be able to take the white off and begin coloring. That's the next step we'll do. So put this in a nice safe area where it's not going to get bumped or smudged. Okay, so now that your design is dry, you're ready to flip your plastic over and take it off of the back. So you want to peel off your tape. Be careful if your plastic's flimsy, especially if you're using something paper-based like wax paper. If you want, you can try to be careful with the paper. If you think you're going to need to save that paper template to use again, or you can just tear that off if you don't plan on using it again. So once you've removed your paper design, what you're left with is your beautiful stained glass design. Some people don't like that they can't see the circle. So if that bothers you, one thing you can do before you remove it is you can lightly draw that circle so you know where to color to. You could do that with a black Sharpie, or if you have a color you're going to be using like for a background color, or just, you know, whatever you're going to be coloring those shapes, you could go ahead and show how far out they need to color. So I know I'm going to be using this color for that area anyway. Some of my students prefer to color with the paper still behind it because they feel like it just gives their plastic a little bit more stability as they color. So if you want to color your design first and then remove the plastic, you can, or the paper. But I find that I'm so excited to see it without the paper backing that I remove the paper first before I start coloring. So the last step is obviously coloring your stained glass. I use colored Sharpies because they're permanent and I think they give a nice vibrant color. So pick a few that go well together for your design. And since the idea of this is that it has radial symmetry, you want to color it symmetrically. So what that means is if you color one shape a certain color, then you need to color that same shape where it repeats around the circle that same color. I am going to put this behind here just so you can see that a little bit better. So just go ahead and color everything in with your Sharpie. Ta-da! The last thing we're gonna do is make a nice black frame for your design so that you can hang it in the window. So I've got a piece of black paper. This is 12 by 12, so just a little bit bigger than our design, as you can see. And this is the exact same circle that I used to make our design in the first place. So I'm going to take this, trace it in the middle of our black paper, and then I'm going to cut it out. Now, keep in mind, what I'm after is not a black circle, but a black frame. So the circle can get cut up, but the outer edge needs to remain intact. So when you cut this out, don't start by cutting from the side. Instead, pinch it in the middle, make a snip, then insert your scissors, and then you can cut them out to that line. Now, I'm not going to cut quite on the line. I'm going to cut just inside a little bit to give us a slightly thicker frame, and so that our edge covers our uneven edge of our circle. So when you cut, I suggest just following that inside edge a little bit. You could always have just traced a slightly smaller circle on there, if that's easier for you. But I only have that one circle, so I'm just gonna make sure to cut it out so that you leave just a little tiny bit of space before that line. So this is trash, you can throw this away. Now this is the back, because this is where you have your circle. If you are one of my students, this is a great spot to write your name and class code. Okay, so this is where we're going to be taping our design on, so that from the front, all you see is that nice framed design. Okay, so this plastic that I used is really, really big, so we're going to actually need to cut it down. We're going to cut around our circle, leaving just a little bit of edge around the outside of where you colored. Not a whole lot, maybe like 1/4 of a centimeter, so up to maybe like a half. Or as I would tell my students, like half of a pinky space. And of course, this is trash unless you want to use it for something else cool. So there's my circle. So this is the back. I'm just going to take my design, flip it over. If you have really nice clear, there's not really a better front or back to it actually, but I like to have the 3D part sticking out on the front because I think that's what makes it look so cool. And you want to line this up. You can see that a little bit of my design overlaps the black all the way around, which is perfect. So you want to line it up so that you don't have one side where your design doesn't quite make the black, and another side that overlaps a bunch. You need to get it as close to centered as possible on your black. The other thing you want to keep in mind is your actual design. If you mount it kind of off center, it'll look kind of weird. This is symmetrical, so line up one of your lines of symmetry, and you have either 4 or 8 lines of symmetry, depending on how you did this, but line it up so that one of your lines of symmetry either goes through the middle or goes corner to corner, which will likely put another line of symmetry in the middle for you. So I think I like it this way the best. And once you have it all even, then you're just going to use some tape. Doesn't really matter what kind of tape. If you use clear tape, you don't have to be as careful because the clear tape could overlap and you wouldn't be able to see it. But I'm using this thin masking tape. And so you want to make sure that your tape doesn't go past that black edge so that you don't see it from the front. And this time, we want it to be permanent or stable. So this time you can use quite a bit more tape. I like to start by doing one corner and then smoothing it flat and then doing the diagonal, the other corner on the other side, because that gives it a nice stretch across. You really don't have to have it taped all the way around. When you get to these skinnier parts of the black, I don't necessarily tape it. You want to make sure that your plastic doesn't go past the side of the black. If you want to kind of cut these down a little bit more so you do have a little bit of a black edge so that you can get tape to fit all the way around just to make it really secure, that's fine. But just make sure that you don't have any tape hanging past the black in either direction, because then you can see the tape from the front, which doesn't look as good. Make sure if you're in my class you have it taped over your name, and then when you flip it over, ta-da, you have a nice mounted work of art. I'm going to slide my white under there just so you can see it a little bit better, but you won't need to have a white paper background when you hang this in a window. It's going to look magnificent just the way it is.
And that's it. Take your beautiful new stained glass, go hang it in a window, and enjoy it. Thanks for watching.